Hello, and welcome to Life Science New York's Spotlight Series, a regular series of conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and folks who are driving New York's biomed and life sciences industries. I'm joined today by William Reiley, PhD, the president and director of the Trudeau in New York's Adirondacks, and also TICRO, a contract research organization. Um, William, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Win. It's a pleasure to obviously be able to talk a little bit about the Trudeau Institute, the contract research organization, and the things that we're doing here in upstate New York.
Yeah. Let's start a little bit with history. I think some people may know the name Trudeau Institute. Certainly, it has a storied past. I'm wondering if you can kind of take us from its origins and tell us also a little bit about you and your work at Trudeau.
Yeah, Trudeau Institute has quite the storied history and legacy. It all started with Edward Livingston Trudeau, who was a PhD and MD at the time. He actually comes up to Saranac Lake into this region with the disease of the day, which was called consumption, which we now know was caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So he comes up here, and again, diagnosis with consumption in the early portion of the 1900s and the 1800s was really a death sentence. It had a high morbidity and mortality. There were no drugs. At the time when E.L. Trudeau contracted this disease, they didn't even know it was a bacteria that caused it. It was just a physical diagnosis, and individuals, obviously got sick. But people didn't know. Was it something in the air? Was it something in the water? Was it something about lifestyle? Was it something about what people were eating? It was very unknown. But Edward Livingston, contracts this disease and really comes up to Saranac Lake in the event to try, to leave the city to try a change of environment, which was really the only treatment course that many individuals with consumption chose to do. He comes up here to basically Paul Smith's hotel at the time, which is now actually Paul Smith's College, and basically starts to basically try to relax, try to change his lifestyle, change of environment. And actually, he starts to get better. And of course, being basically an MD at the time, he starts reading obviously the literature on consumption, and he's obviously obsessed with this. And he starts to think about how the changing of environments might be obviously implementing change with this particular disease. So he actually starts a practice here in Saranac Lake, and a little while later, basically goes back down to the city and really has this great epiphany and idea to basically bring together basically a sanatorium for the treatment and cure of tuberculosis. And so he comes back with basically foundational funding from a lot of philanthropic nature of individuals that were down in the city. And they basically built the first sanatorium for the treatment and cure of tuberculosis here in Saranac Lake. Now, of course, there are other sanatoriums worldwide that were basically treating tuberculosis. This was really the first one in the United States to really focus in and on this particular disease. Trudeau, however, was not just an MD at heart. He was really a PhD. He really wanted to understand the scientific nature of what was causing this disease. And so not only does he start this sanatorium, he actually starts a laboratory. And that's really where the Trudeau Institute really gets its storied legacy and its continual nature into research is from the starting of this laboratory. This laboratory continues on hand in hand with the sanatorium for a number of years, looking at the treatment of tuberculosis. Of course, with the advent of antibiotics in the early 50s and the 60s, basically, tuberculosis incident rates in the United States go dramatically down. And a lot of these tuberculosis sanatoriums really closed down. But the laboratory maintained operations even after the laboratory or the sanatorium itself closed down in the mid 50s. So the laboratory kept going. And of course, a number of individuals basically decided that this laboratory needed more modern space. And then in 1960s, basically, an effort was launched basically to build the Trudeau Institute on its current foundation and grounds, which we sit now, which is right on the lower Saranac Lake in Saranac Lake in upstate New York, which is a very interesting and unique place for basically medical research institutes. A lot of medical research institutes are located in major metropolitan areas. There's very few in the region that we necessarily are located in. Of course, that's, again, the history was tuberculosis. However, again, our research, spans a number of diseases. We've worked on a variety of infectious diseases such as influenza, coronavirus, when that came through as the pandemic. We work on things that are obviously emerging diseases like Zika and dengue virus, which are obviously plaguing the world with high incident rates. We continue to work on, again, a number of pathogens that are relevant for human health around our medical system, such as those bacterial infections, which plague our hospital-acquired infections. These are also known as the escape pathogens. A number of these bacterial infections have high bacterial, basically, resistance to antibiotics, basically both frontline and secondary drugs. So we're very interested in understanding a lot of these. And of course, we also work with other things that are, again, emerging that have names that people don't even understand, have never potentially heard of. And we work with these pathogens as well. Again, my history, is that I finished my graduate degree down at Penn State Hershey Medical Center in early 2000s. And basically, I was looking for a postdoctoral position. I applied for a number of places, but in 2006, I joined the lab of Dr. David Woodland up here at the Trudeau Institute as a postdoctoral fellow, and spent the next 5 years as a postdoc working with the investigators here at the Trudeau Institute. About 2010, 2011, I transitioned into a research assistant, which is sort of like an interim faculty position. I was looking for positions around the United States as well as globally, but I was sort of staying here at the Trudeau Institute while looking for a position. And eventually, I was brought on board as a faculty member and basically decided to end up staying here at the Trudeau Institute. It was about that time, around the early 2010 basically time point, that we started to think about how we could structure and diversify our funding sources at the Trudeau Institute. And the Trudeau Institute is a non-for-profit medical research institute, which has its advantages, but also has its disadvantages. Some of the disadvantages really are the fact that we have to basically fund all operational costs by some mechanism. We don't have the advantages that sometimes major medical universities or universities have, which is that operational costs can be offset through other means. So we, again, as a non-for-profit, have to offset those operational costs, which are pretty hefty if you think about the size of a medical research institute. So we were looking for ways to diversify the funding sources. And again, one of those ideas was to look at something that we actually had historically always done, which was basically working with outside entities to basically test novel therapeutics, vaccines, adjuvants, things that basically were coming from basically pharmaceutical companies, biotechnology companies, and other places, and run them through our infectious disease models. Again, because this is what we had as a historical basis of a very solid foundation. So we were allowing other groups to basically utilize expertise and facilities here at the Institute. But of course, this was done on an investigator by investigator basis. It wasn't centralized, but that was the question. If we could centralize this into a group, basically, would this allow for basically the ability to have something that might help to offset some operational costs, as well as to support a number of our core facilities? Really, this launched with basically me being asked by a number of the faculty members to see if I was interested in sort of taking up this pursuit. The contract research organization started in 2012, 2013 with a group size of one, which was myself. But of course, we have been very successful over the last couple of years. And the group size has actually grown to where we're actually now a total of 20 individuals. So myself and another individual help to oversee some of the business aspects of the day-to-day operations. We have two PhD level scientists that help to oversee projects, three program managers to help to obviously basically navigate the day-to-day operations. And then we have a number of technicians, which really are always the workhorse of any scientific project that really help to complete those. So again, I sort of sat in this role of sort of overseeing the contract research organization for the better part of about 10 years. However, I was also then promoted to a chief scientific officer position here at Trudeau Institute. And then 2 years ago was basically given the nod or the tap to basically become the president and director of the Trudeau Institute, which is an honor. And again, something I never thought my career would ever necessarily take me to. But again, very excited and proud to be again this, again, a president of the institute, which has such a storied history of over 140 years of research excellence in the space of infectious disease and immunology.
So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about um, particularly about the contract research organization at Trudeau. Uh, for folks who are looking for a CRO or are in the drug development space or in the basic research space, how do they best connect with you? Where are the touch points and expertise areas for folks who are looking for some of those services?
Yeah, I mean, first off, this contract research organization really has found a way to unite really the fabric of our scientific research and capabilities with a commercial mindset. And again, this really has resonated well with all the partners that we work with. It's really allowing for our partners to come in, utilize our expertise, on infectious disease models, and to basically run not only in vivo but in vitro assays that are necessary for them to basically push the development of these, again, novel therapeutics, drugs, adjuvants, vaccines, sometimes biologics, to see if they actually have the efficacy that's necessary to move the product forward. Again, contacting us, is a number of different ways. We work with people at many different points within the preclinical phase of the development efforts. We, start off sometimes working with groups on a consultative approaching sort of, understanding what models, talking to them about what some of the best practices might be, what are the pitfalls from some of the animal models that exist out there. We really help to bring in mechanistic insights into projects as well, making sure that, again, technical capacity and capabilities are met, and then again, providing the, being able to provide, foolproof, concept studies from start to finish is necessarily important. Again, the whole point is really allowing for groups to move forward. We've done a number of things that have led to IND enabling studies that have allowed for, patents and things to be filed both with the FDA and as well as other countries that allow for drugs to start to move through clinical phases of the development process. So again, there's no reason not to contact us early, but a lot of times people already have some in vitro data or some things that they're interested. They have some good proof of concepts, and that's normally when they're contacting us.
And then in terms of working with partners, both at the Institute and also at TICRO, give me a sense of the relationship with partners and how that develops during the clinical test, the preclinical testing phase and what have you.
Sure. I mean, again, we are constantly in communication with our clients, on a I feel sometimes a 24/7 basis because again, when studies, initially launched, we want to make sure that those, data, the input of what's going on is relayed to our clients because, that's always one of the things that our clients feels is that they give all this stuff to you, they give the materials to you, and then the study launches, and then they're so excited to hear about are things working? Are things not working? And so we are constantly in contact with our groups and basically discussing the projects. So again, there's a lot of touch points that we have at the beginning of the study. Making sure that the scope of work and the study designs are all laid out such that again we have a good comfort level from both perspectives that the study will be successful. And then again once the study launches, there's a lot of touch points that we have. We just don't touch base at the end of the study say, here's the data, give a big data dump and just sort of walk away. And even then, after the study, we continue to discuss, what went right, what went wrong with the study, what things, are potential confounding points from a given study, which happens all the time, where things are, again, they look like something's happening, but it's not a full or clear effect of a true 100% success or basically a failure. And so we're always there to talk things through with our clients. And again, that's one of the best points is that we feel that we bridge this academic knowledge and base of understanding of the models and the things that we're doing and being able to provide that to a client. So having that really nice, one-on-one service offering and basically making sure that our clients feel that they basically are getting, the most out of any study that they necessarily run with us.
And let me ask you to do a little forecasting, if you don't mind. I'm curious to get your perspective on, where you see the industry headed. Particularly, I'd be curious to know. I think we've seen certainly an increase in some investments in drug development and in the pharmaceutical space in upstate New York, a place that traditionally has probably skewed a bit more toward the devices space, kind of historically, as that's changed. And just generally, as you're looking kind of down the road, where do you see Trudeau and TICRO over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, again, I will say that 25 was a peculiar year for all of life science. Again, it was a slowdown. A lot of places were sort of trying to figure out and navigate the current landscape as it was coming basically down from our federal government and changes that were being implemented. And so that obviously led to again a little bit of a slowdown in 25. But really in 26, we see that there are a number of things that are starting to pick back up. Individuals are obviously, moving forward, saying business still has to continue, and the investments are continuing within the life science space. So I think that there's, again, there's been a large outreach in 26. And so I think that there's a good wave that's been moving forward with the future and projects that we're seeing. I would say that the diversity of projects that are coming through are a little bit more than we've seen in the past. We are seeing some areas that are obviously being abandoned or basically lessened in terms of its research interest, basically both at the biotech company and the pharma companies, but also within the research space. But again, some of that always happens. Again, it's a cyclical effect where things are high and low at any given time point throughout history. And I think that we're just seeing that other areas are being invested in right now. And so again, we're seeing a lot of calls for different things. Autoimmunity and other areas of immunology are becoming a little bit more of interest. And again, understanding things. So I think that again, we're seeing that there's a change in the environment. Again, not something that's surprising. I think it's a cyclical effect that we'll see, again, and headwinds change. And again, we're very versatile here at the Institute to change with those times as well. So again, I think that there's, again, the momentum here at the Institute is actually pretty strong. And one of the things is that we've actually begun to take a modernization, approach here at the Institute. And really this has happened because we've actually received some bipartisan support at the federal level, with two major grants being awarded to the Institute coming out of basically our Congress. And so again, we're very supportive to both Senator Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer, as well as Congresswoman Stefanik, basically for providing the opportunities to get these grants to allow for modernization to occur. This will really allow for new cutting edge instrumentation to come into the Institute, really supporting advanced research, capacity and capabilities. So this will obviously spill over into the abilities of what we're able to offer for services as well here within the contract research organization. And I think that this modernization is really going to be important to basically continue working with a number of groups on diverse and basically varied projects that they might necessarily have.
I will say to those folks who are watching us, if you've not had a chance to make it up to Saranac Lake, the air may no longer cure diseases, or we no longer see it as curative. It certainly is one of the most beautiful places on the planet to be, and I've had the good fortune of spending a little time up at the Trudeau Institute, and it really, as you talk about kind of some of your modernization and expansion plans, you've got a really incredible facility there in the Adirondacks. And so for folks who may find themselves heading to the mountains this summer, I'd encourage you to swing by Saranac Lake and take a gander at the Trudeau Institute. Well, William Reiley, PhD, President and Director of the Trudeau Institute and TICRO, its contract research organization. I want to thank you for spending some time with us. For folks who are interested in connecting with Trudeau and TICRO, you can find contact information in the chat here on this call. And of course, we're always happy to connect folks directly to the team at Trudeau and help make some of those introductions. William, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Win. And as echoed, any individual that's up in the area of here, upstate New York, and is in our region and would love to come by the Institute for a tour or to learn more about our past, again, we're always willing and excited to meet new individuals, especially showing them our beautiful campus and the environment in which we do our research. So again, thank you all so much for attending today. It was a pleasure, Win. And again, have a great day.
You too. We'll talk soon.